Thank you, Joshua. While that was ongoing, the Senate was thrown into a rowdy session during its plenary sitting to make amendments to the 2027 election timeline and a decisive vote on the controversial electronic transmission provision. Meeting in the Committee of the Whole, the upper chamber successfully amended Clause 28 of the Electoral Act 2026, reducing the mandatory notice period for election from 360 days to 300 days, aimed at preventing the 2027 general elections from coinciding with the holy month of Ramadan and the Lent period. The session, however, turned volatile during the consideration of Clause 60, subsection 3, as lawmakers clashed over the backup plan for results transmission. News Centre's National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, was at plenary. He joins me now for a situation report. Also joining in is the former INEC Electoral Commissioner, Igini, as well as cleric Isah El-Bubah, rights activist who was part of the protest, part of the protest at the National Assembly earlier today, and we understand things happened. Let's start with an update from Sagir. As briefly as you can, what was true, what you witnessed at the upper chamber earlier in the day?
Well, good evening, Felicity. Lawmakers convened today at both the House of Representatives and the Senate. The expectation from Nigerians outside and observers was that some conversation was going to be had on the contentious Clause 60 sub 3 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. However, the conversation was focused on Clause 28, which had to do with timeline for the election, which was subsequently amended from 360 days to 300 days. According to our lawmakers, this was to provide for Nigerians who would be observing the Lent and the Ramadan fasters at the time to be able to effectively participate in the electoral process way ahead of the Ramadan and the Lent fast. Of course, there was no way that the conversation about the contentious Clause 60 sub 3 would not have come up, and this was at the point where during the consideration of the bill clause by clause at the Committee of the Whole, Senator Ibrahim, had attempted first and then subsequently declared a point of order, citing Order 72 of the Senate sitting rules, and this clause actually calls for a situation where any member of the chambers does not agree with what the President of the Senate is saying. He has the right to declare a division, which he did, and then lawmakers were at this point compelled to individually vote on their position of the proviso, which was attached to the Clause 60 sub 3, that in the situation where e-transmission, that's the electronic transmission of results, does not happen or is not able to happen due to technical or internet glitches, then the presiding officer, or at this point, the polling officer, then goes on to adopt the manual collation of results, which is filling the form EC8A and then taking this to the collation center. Well, a lot of all the senators who were at the sitting were forced to stand up and give their position with regards to whether the proviso should remain in as a clause or as part of the clause or be removed. And, the vote was done. 55 of the lawmakers voted in support of it, with an inclusion of the Senate Minority Leader, and 15 opposition lawmakers voted in support of the proviso being removed. But effectively, the proviso remained, and the reenactment and amendment of the bill was done and subsequently passed. Felicity.
All right, Sagir, thank you very much for that quick wrap-up. Let's jump now to Isah El-Bubah. Isah, we understand you had an experience at the National Assembly today. Could you give us a quick recap of how you got caught in the web?
Assembly to join the youths that are standing, demanding for the reform in the electoral bill. And what they're asking is a simple thing, simple in the sense that what they want is a credible election, and so they want to make sure that the process is all well and the process is done correctly, because this is about them. It's about the Nigeria they live in. So I came in from the U.S., and this morning, as I came in, I went there to stand with these young people and encourage them that, look, Nigeria is going to be the Nigeria they have always desired to have. And so we stand with them that there should be electoral reform in terms of the e-transmission. And it was peaceful. They conducted themselves so well, so respectful. And then suddenly, while we were having the press release and then discussions were ongoing, the next thing was the police tear gassed the entire crowds that were there, and they just bumped us with that. And I was so shocked because I was in America a few days ago. That's where I came in from, and I was privileged to be in the Capitol Hill, privileged also to be able to be part of some session with the American Congress people. And we made our presentation. I came in as a Nigerian to America, but I was received with honor. They listened to our petition. They listened to all that we want to say. Then coming back to my own country, the thing I will receive from the National Assembly was for us to be tear gassed. And that was something that was terrible, especially to a younger generation that are beginning to stand up to say, look, what we want is, we want credibility to be done. How can people sit down in the National Assembly and just be running things without listening to the cry of the people they represent? And if you're in there representing the people, you should be able to defend what the people are looking for. Okay, they are not telling you vacate your seat. All they're telling you is...
Yeah, you made a statement that I'd like to just jump off on. You said you wanted to encourage the young people that they will get the Nigeria that they desire. But looking at the decision that is being taken by the National Assembly at the moment, which seems contrary to the expressed wish of the people who are protesting, what is your level of optimism that when the joint committee meets, anything will change other than a harmonization of the decisions that have been made on the Electoral Act?
Well, if I get you right, one of the things I would say is what we have demanded for, if I get your question correctly, because the sound is not too clear.
I'm happy to retake the question quickly.
What we are asking...
Okay, so just to say that you expressed a desire that the young people that are protesting will get the desired Nigeria of their dream. And I'm asking you, considering the decision that's been taken by the National Assembly, do you expect any further changes that will be in harmony with the decision, the desires of the people who are protesting by the joint committee or the leadership of the country at the moment?
Basically, this is what we're expecting, but then with what they have done, it shows us that they've already declared, let me use the word, they've declared a coup or they've declared a war against the Nigerian state or the Nigerian people. But then I just want to remind them that, look, we've seen it all. I am an elder now. I'm a father and a grandfather. We've seen it all. And at this time, everybody needed to focus on how they can rewrite history and how they can put Nigeria back on track. These young people need to be encouraged. You need to feel the pain and the frustration of the young people. And when I went to Europe, I saw the state of Nigerians. They are all crying. They want to see a nation that is working. And simple transmission of result is just becoming an issue. Look at what went on in the House of Representatives. Look at the chaos there. Look at the rowdiness in the National Assembly. That shows you that these people are not ready to give birth to the nation that will be good for all. So for us, we are standing on our grounds that this thing must be done, and it must be done. A 2027 election cannot hold without doing the right thing.
Isah, thank you very much for sharing your views with us. And as always, we hope for a better Nigeria. Let's turn now to former INEC Commissioner Mike Igini, thank you very much for being here. I'll add two questions and hope you just tackle them for us. First, I'd appreciate if you could establish your position on the Electoral Act Amendment controversy, and then perhaps talk to us about what impact the inclusion of both electronic and manual transmission and the timing of the transmission of the Form EC84 have on the integrity and speed of election results.
Well, thank you very much. The greatest promise of democracy and the whole essence of embrace of democracy is because it brings about participation and accountability in the process of human development. The reason why we fought for democracy under the military at the time when the journey of Nigeria and the prospect of democracy were less certain was essentially because of the absence of a parliament. Because from the First Republic and even under the military, we have always had executive as well as the legislature, the executive and judiciary. These have been the institutions that have been of old. What was lacking was parliament, that the people have no representation. That was why we fought for democracy. Now, it is unbelievable that in a democracy, which of course have said the whole embrace of it because it brings about participation, we have got to a level where the far corner no longer listen to the far corner. What we now have is what a scholar, John Frisk, described as semiotic democracy. The gulf between the people and those who are supposed to be representative. Because the only reason why we wanted democracy was that we needed a parliament where the people will not only have representatives, they will have representation. With respect to the ongoing amendment, it is unfortunate. I have said elsewhere that I consider the 10 years I spent in INEC as years wasted. They are in vain. Because for over 10 years, a decade, since 2010, we have embarked on the pilot of how to transmit election result electronically. The whole essence of transmission of election result can be summed up in 3 words: trust, efficiency, security or safety of the verdict of the people as expressed at the polling unit. These are the fundamental pillars of e-transmission. As a matter of fact, I must say this here, this controversy we had in 2021 as the nation was preparing for the 2023 elections. I left office in 2022. Before we left office, we had used the entire process that had been developed for e-transmission to conduct over 105 elections, including 5 governorship elections, 105. As you will have seen in the ongoing debates, INEC, as it happened the other time, was completely absent. We have not heard anything from the Commission. Now, people claim that electronic transmission is desirable, and that the only problem, according to those who are pushing this, are that INEC readiness and lack of infrastructure. May I inform that today we would have expected that it should be the INEC that should be saying it cannot do it. And INEC will not say so. Because by 2021, when the debate was on, you will all recall that this same debate came up in 2021 before the successful passage.
Okay, quickly, sorry to interject, but we're really pressed for time.
So we respect to that. I feel sad that the commission before we left ready, infrastructure ready, because a total of 93% of network coverage have been established on account of the NCC and INEC technical report on e-transmission.
All right, quickly, in the interest of time, Mike, sorry to interject, we're time pressed. I just want you to speak quickly to INEC seeming silence to what is going on with the options of, them deciding manually or otherwise, and perhaps the concerns. You've talked about the fact that 105 cases were successfully implemented. What could be the caveat that is pushing this narrative and even compelling the House of Reps to change their position?
We push the blame on the doorstep of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, my constituency. It was the decision of the Supreme Court, the tribunals, that the mandatory requirement for e-transmission as contained in the regulations and guidelines issued by INEC pursuant to the power given to you under Section 160 of the Constitution as well as Section 148 of the Constitution should have been written in the Electoral Act, which is wrong because there are three principal legal frameworks that govern election in all jurisdictions around the world, which are the Constitution of that country, the Electoral Act, like our own case, as well as issue guidelines. If the court had not made that argument, today we will not be in this mess that we find ourselves. With respect to the danger, this is my worry. The moment you give this type of omnibus discretion, it's going to be abused. It means that there will be no network in many places. I speak from 10 years experience. It's unfortunate. I thought it's a program you really wanted for 2 years. I don't speak. And when you gave me this invitation, I was reluctant because I really have said good night to Nigeria. All right? So the point is, where we are, they are going to put the lives of youth corpers in danger because there's going to be compromise at a polling unit where Nigerians are going to say, you must transmit, and you fail to transmit, what will happen to a youth corper who is a presiding officer? My worry is that there's going to be massive violence. There will be resistance by the Nigerian people. And that is why I am worried for the decision taken now. Because the whole idea of the IRF is to ensure that once the result has been uploaded at the polling unit, had been declared at the polling unit, copies of Form EC8A given to party agent, that result will be uploaded straight to the IRF. Once it's to the IRF and everybody has seen it, it will be difficult, if not impossible, for people to change the result. Because at the level of the ward, at the level of the local government, the collation officers in those levels would have seen those results so that when presiding officer comes to meet them, you cannot do something different from what he or she had seen on the IRF and also be viewed by Nigeria. And that is why the guidelines was very clear that when the results submitted to the ward collation officer or local government is inconsistent with what has been published in the IRF, the result of the IRF will take precedent, will prevail over the other one. But with this amendment, the mobile communication providers, it can connive and say that there is no network.
I mean, that's the concern.
We are back to the political Egypt of 2023 and previous years. All the things that we have done, they are now in vain.
Quite unfortunate, the turn of events with the Electoral Act. I want to first off say, while I understand your hesitation, I think I speak for a majority of Nigerians when I say that your years with the INEC was seen by a lot of people, and the general saying is there is danger when good men stay silent. So we appreciate the time you've given to us. And I'm told to let you know that, please, this is just the news. We would schedule a proper long-term conversation so we can learn from your experience over the years. Thank you so much for your time, sir.